Hello, hello, hello. How are you guys doing today? Well, it's just me and little Boo Radley. Little Boo Radley. You want to come over here, buddy? You want to come over and say hi? You don't? He said, I'm just going to hang out right here on the side of the camera. It's me and Boo Radley hanging out today. I wanted to show you this before I get started. I purchased this lotion and body wash from... what do you call it? Bath and Body Works, and it is called Champagne Apple and Honey. And I have to tell you that, oh, there he goes. He's doing flips. And I have to tell you that I absolutely, absolutely love this lotion and body wash. It smells so good. It smells like you are walking around like an apple field. I don't know why I get so like corny excited about stuff like this, but at night when I take a shower and I put my pajamas on, my shorty pajamas, which are right over there, I do the shower gel and the lotion and all that kind of stuff. I wish they had shampoo and conditioner on them. My shampoo and conditioner and everything would. Now, I don't necessarily like to go out in the world smelling like apple, champagne, and honey. I like to smell like Creed Aventus or Chanel Blue or something like that. But anyway, if you don't watch my drama channel, which is just called Peter Monn, I don't know what's wrong with you, but you should watch it. Oh, look, I also have the Laneige lip face mask that you put on overnight. So I guess I could put on a little bit of that, like this was a little bit like lip gloss, but it's not. You put that on overnight. Makes your lips so wonderful. Anyway... And then I have not one, but two pairs of reading glasses right here because I have them in every single room. That's what happens when you get older, is you start having reading glasses in every single room. But anyway, if you watch my drama channel, I did a Q&A the other day, and I got so many questions that I thought that I would just bring it over here. It just seemed kind of natural to bring it over here and answer the rest of the questions over here. Now, this may be a couple videos. It may not just be one video. It may be a couple videos because I got literally, you guys, like so many questions. So let me go out of these. I'm going to go to the back, to the very first questions that I received first, because whenever I do this, I always start with like the last questions that I get it. Okay, so I'm going to start with the first questions that I received. Let's go in here. Let's see. What are the... Okay. Somebody asked me if I ever drank while I was in rehab. No, I have not had a drink since December 17th of 1994. One time when I was at National Entertainer of the Year, which is a national drag pageant in Louisville, Kentucky, I was sitting at a table and two of us ordered Diet Cokes. Two people ordered rum and Diet Cokes, and I got the wrong drink, and like as soon as it like hit my lips, I could smell it, and I like ran for the bathroom, and I like ran and like put all this like soap and water, and this was like when I was like early in sobriety. I like ran and put like all this soap and water. I was like, I looked like a complete fool at this drag pageant. I was like in the bathroom trying to look cute, you know, and there I was like putting all this. Anyway, that was like the one and only time it's ever happened. I talked to my sponsor about it at the time, and he said your motive wasn't to drink, it was an accident, so that's not considered a relapse. And that is the one and only time that I've ever had alcohol since I have been sober. And that was asked by Nicole, so thank you, Nicole. Jamil asked me, would you buy your childhood home and live there if you could? You know, it's really, really interesting that you asked this question. Look at little Boo Radley. He's so cute. So I love my childhood home. I actually have like a pencil drawing in our hallway going down the stairs that my mom had done when she lived there. And I have such fantastic memories. So if you don't watch my vlog, you might not know, but like the childhood home that my dad's childhood home that I grew up in, which he moved into when I was 12, my dad and my stepmom still live there. The childhood home that and it's on the lake, and my dad's house is really, really cool. The childhood home that I grew up in, that my mom lived in, that my mom and my dad built together, is just a really cool house. It had window seats everywhere. So they wanted to kind of mix a French farmhouse with like a house that you would see like in the English Cotswolds. And so the outside of it was red brick that had been completely painted white. And then my dad went out there before we moved in, like a year before, and he would chip off the white paint. So you would see the red coming through the white paint. And then they grew ivy. So the entire front side of my house was all white brick with red showing through, and then ivy. Like ivy grew up the side of our house, like onto the roof and everything. It was very, very cool. So there were like little nooks and cranny, what's the word I'm looking for? Anyway, there were like reading areas. There were like window seats that had built-in bookshelves in them that you could just sit in and read. There were wood floors and slate floors through the whole house. We actually had a library in our house that you stepped down into. That 3 whole sides of it were all floor-to-ceiling bookshelves. Like, I mean, like 30 feet in the air ceilings, cathedral ceilings. The house was very, very cool. My mom and my dad met at Indiana. Well, they met afterwards, but they both went to Indiana University and were big IU fans. So one fireplace was the fireplace from the Pi Phi house, because my mom was a Pi Phi, Pi Beta Phi. Pi Phi, Pi Phi, a Pi Beta Phi. I'll be a Pi Phi all my life until the day I die. I wouldn't be a Kappa, a G, or Alpha Chi. Be a Pi Phi, a Pi Phi, a Pi Beta Phi. And when I know all the Pi Phi songs. Anyway, Pi Phi kisses, Pi Phi misses, sweetest of them all. Anyway, and my dad was a Fiji, actually. We are the fighting Fiji men. I had no desire to ever be in a fraternity or a sorority for that matter. And obviously, but I don't know why I've always been intrigued by the Greek life. My husband really, really wanted to be like in a fraternity. He wanted to go to Butler University, which is where my mom got her master's degree. And he wanted to be in a fraternity, and he didn't. So anyway, but one of the fireplaces in our house, we had one in our library and one in our living room. The one in the living room was an exact replica of the Pi Phi house, and the one in the library was an exact replica of the Union Hall at IU. It was huge fireplace, and it was like where my parents had met, and it was like very, very meaningful to them, or they had a date there or something. It was very, very meaningful to them. So I love that house. It backed up to the woods. It was on a cul-de-sac. I would love to buy that house. It's a little out of my price range. The other thing is, my husband would not so much. I mean, it's a lot of house for us. I have no idea how square footage or whatever it is, but it's a lot of house. Like, for us, just 2 people, we don't need that much house. But yeah, like, I mean, if I was a bazillionaire and I could buy that house, sure, I think I would. But then I think the other thing is, you know, it's like, when they say you can't go home again kind of thing, like, it looks very different. I've seen pictures, like people it was an unfinished basement. People finished the basement. I mean, there's been like 5 people that have lived there since me, maybe more. We didn't have a deck out back. There's a huge deck out the whole back that overlooks the creek and the woods and everything like that. It was just a really magical place to grow up as a child. So yeah, I think I mean, yeah, definitely if I had kids, I would love to buy it. If you could learn to cook one dish, this is by Cassandra. If you could learn to, that was loud. If you could learn to cook one dish, what would you love to cook by yourself? Well, I don't really care to learn to cook one dish. I mean, if I want to, I will follow a recipe. Like, I'm not that much of a cooking idiot that I can't. But I have, like, burned so many things at this point that it's kind of a running joke. If I could cook one thing, like, that would just be, like, really, like, I just knew, like, off the back of my hand. So, we have a family friend named Carol, and Carol has been my mom and my aunt's friend since, like, they were in their, like, early 20s. And Carol makes the stuffing at Thanksgiving. We all call it Carol stuffing, and it's, like, unbelievable. She makes 2 versions. She makes just a regular stuffing, and then she makes oyster dressing, is what we call it. My mom loved her oyster dressing. But if I could make, I mean, my husband, when we get some of that stuff, like, she'll make it just for him because she loves it so much. And so my cousin just gave me a cookbook that my aunt had put together like a year before she passed away that were like all of her favorite recipes, which is really cool that I have. And one of them in there is Carol stuffing. And so I thought maybe for Thanksgiving, I would try to make Carol stuffing. I might make it into a video over here. Let me know if you guys would like that. So, Okay, the camera started to fall, so I had to stop it. So let's get back into the questions now that I have it situated. Alcohol has always relaxed me. How did you let it go and find other coping methods? So, I mean, I've talked about this ad nauseum on my vlog. But, you know, like, alcohol always relaxed me too. Alcohol allowed me to be whoever you wanted me to be. Alcohol allowed me to be somebody that I wanted to be, or, you know, didn't want to be, I guess. It allowed me to be promiscuous. It allowed me to be, you know, fearless. It allowed me to just get out of my head and be numb and be, you know, whatever. The thing is that alcohol worked for me until it didn't, you know? And then when alcohol, you know, at first it became a problem every, let's say, 6 or 7 months. And then it was every 3 months. And then it was, I'm just using this as an example, but then it was every 6 weeks. And then it was every 2 weeks. And then it was just daily that alcohol became a problem for me. And it was, alcohol wasn't working for me anymore. If alcohol worked for me the way that it did when I first started, you know, and that it just comforted me and it helped me go to sleep, and that I didn't really suffer any consequences from it, and I didn't feel bad about myself, and there was no shame, guilt, or remorse associated with my drinking, I'd probably be still drinking today, in all honesty. You know, the problem was that drinking didn't work for me anymore. It just stopped working for me. And so at that point was when I was like, okay, this is a mess. But even then, I wasn't willing to stop. You know, it was only when a situation where I drove my car into this ditch after having like sideswiped this restaurant, you know, a Perkins restaurant. And I'm like, okay. And it was like me looking at like severe legal consequences or going to treatment, that I was like, okay, I'm not stupid. I'm going to treatment, right? That was only then. And even then, when I was in treatment, I wasn't even like, yes, let's stay sober. You know, it was, I would say at the 6-month mark, where I was standing in this parking lot holding this coin, looking at myself thinking to myself, you know, you've never done anything consistently for 6 months, let alone stay sober. You know, and you have peace of mind today. People aren't telling you what you did the night before. You know, you wake up every day with a clear head. Like, there are reasons now to stay sober. The coping methods, I don't know what else to tell you. You know, I know there are a lot of people that don't want to do a 12-step program. I get it, okay? I understand it. I was really resistant to it for a long time. I thought it was brainwashing. I thought it was a cult. I thought all of those things, right? For me, it had to get to the point where I was like, I've tried everything else. I'm willing to try this, you know? And I was like willing to put anything in my body, but I wasn't willing to try a 12-step program, like really try a 12-step program and do what they told me to do. And what they told me to do was, if you think about use, it was not deep. It was like, if you think about using, pick up the phone, call somebody, you know, they'll talk you through it, or they'll come over. It wasn't deep. It was those kinds of things. And when I was really, and I surrendered to being willing to do those things, and I can remember at first, it was like going minute by minute. I would say to myself, okay, you know, it's 6:20 p.m. If I can make it to 6:30, at 6:30 I can drink, or I can use something else. And so I would call all these people that I had on this list on my countertop, and I would just sit there and I would call them and call them and call them. And I would think to myself, I'd kind of like hope that I didn't get somebody, but typically I would. And then they would talk to me and they would say, do you need me to come get you? You know, whatever. And often they would. And, you know, sometimes they'd just talk me through and that would be fine. And those were the coping mechanisms at first, you know, and it was hard. It really was hard. You know, I think one of the tricks of getting older in sobriety is that you kind of forget at times that you're just as close to the drink as you were when you first got sober. And I know that when I say that, people are like, well, you really aren't. Well, yes, I am. If I start fooling myself and not doing the things I need to be doing, you know? And the thing is that, but for the grace of God, I hope that I don't ever get to the point where I think that like, okay, like I can drink and a drink sounds good and I can do that. And you know, because I've had friends of mine that have gone back out there. I had a very dear friend of mine who had 21 years of sobriety, you know, and went back out there and within 6 months was getting a divorce and living on the drug dealer's couch. And it breaks my heart, you know, and I probably would be dead within 6 months. So I would lose everything I had. All right, let's go on to the questions. Let's see. My sign is I'm a Cancer. And do you think astrology is real or accurate? I do sometimes. Like, I believe in it, but like, I believe in it when people really know what they're talking about. Like me just saying I'm a Cancer and getting on and reading my horoscopes. No, I don't think that that's really that true. When you read, I was born June 29th. When you read about like the day that I was born and things like that, it's very accurate to who I am as a person. So, will you be covering any Real Housewives shows on YouTube? I would love to, but the thing is, if I'm going to do it, I want to almost like start with the beginning of a season, and like Salt Lake City already started. So I think the next one that I would start would be Miami, probably. I think it's coming out next spring. I might do the Ultimate Girls Trip. We'll see. But yeah, I would love to do that. Let's see. Any trips planned? Yes. Kind of. We've kind of like, we have trips that we'd like to take. Let me put it that way. We have trips that we'd like to take. Can we get a little Alex cameo in your video? Alex has been like kind of like making little cameos in my drama videos. He's been like poking his head in and like poking his head in the vlog and stuff like that. He would do a video with me. Alex has no problem with it. Every once in a while he'll be like, do you want to do a video, babe? And I'm like, yeah, sure. What do you want to do a video about? He's like, I don't know. The thing is that we always kind of fall back to doing like Q&As. And I'm like, I think people kind of get sick of Q&As with us. It's like we've answered all the same questions, you know, that we get asked all the time. I have not listened to the 3 a.m. tracks on Midnight yet, but I plan to. What is your favorite Halloween movie of all time? Halloween of all time, my favorite Halloween movie. So if it was like cartoons, movies, anything, like just Halloween, like not the franchise, but the genre, I would have to say either It's a Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, or Fat Albert's Halloween. I love both of those. If you're talking about franchise, Halloween, the movie franchise, I really, really like 4 and 5, which are not included in the franchise really anymore. I mean, they're in the franchise, but they're not included in the timeline supposedly anymore. 1 will always be my favorite. I just love 1 so much. It's like my comfort movie. But 4 and 5, I really like a lot. Let's see. Why did your parents separate, and did that affect you in any way? I was like, this is kind of a personal question, but I guess I can answer it. Like, my mom's not here anymore, right? And my dad... Get it, Boo Radley. So my parents separated when I was like 5 and a half, 6. I asked my dad not too long ago. I was like, how old was I? This was like a year ago, I guess I asked him. And he was like, I think you were, I can't remember. We kind of like go back and forth between like what the ages were and stuff like that. So when I got to the age where I asked my dad about it, which I think was around the same time that my dad got married to my stepmom, which was when I was, I think, 12. My dad told me that he had fallen out of love with my mom, and that she had fallen out of love with him, and that he knew that that was the case, but my mom wasn't really willing to admit that. She wasn't really willing to admit that she had fallen out of love with him, and that at one point they had been so extremely passionate about each other, and they had like been like so in love, right? And my dad said, since your mom was not willing to leave the marriage, because my mom was somebody that like vehemently believed in the faith of marriage and would never have gotten a divorce, he said that he felt that somebody deserved to be happy, and that he left so that, you know, he could seek happiness, and that he hoped that my mom found happiness as a result of that. The other thing that I really respect and admire my dad for saying this to me, and I don't know, I hope he doesn't care that I say this, but it is whatever. My dad said to me that had he stayed in a loveless marriage, he probably would have ended up cheating on my mom. And because he wasn't the kind of man that would cheat, he knew that he needed to leave, because he wasn't going to do that to somebody. And you know, when you hear all these stories of people cheating, and it's like people always say, well, why don't you just leave? Like, if you're not in love with the person anymore, why don't you leave? And it's like, I know that that seems like such a selfish act, but I have to respect that so highly from my dad, that he did do that, you know, and he realized, like, I'm not in love with her anymore. One thing I think it's important to know, like, I talk about this on my vlog a lot. People are like, why don't you talk about your dad? You don't talk about your dad a lot. He hasn't been in videos and whatever. My dad and I are extremely close. My stepmother and I are extremely close. They are both very, very private people. My dad is 82 years old, you guys, okay? It's like, he's not wanting to like be in a bunch of YouTube stuff, you know? He gets it. He understands it. He's proud of me, but he's like, this is just not his world, you know? But I do want to say one thing. From the time that my dad left, my dad traveled a lot. Like, he traveled all over the world, okay? From the time that my dad left until I was out of high school, my mom had a phone, like my bedroom was at the end of the hall and then her bedroom was the next one. And right when you walked in the bedroom, there was like a glass table. And we actually have it in our kitchen right now, but it looks completely different. And she had this glass table and she had this like dress skirt on it and stuff. And it had this yellow like phone, right? Like landline phone. And so my dad every night, like at 10 o'clock, would call me, 9 or 10 o'clock, and will call me and say, "Good night, Pete." He calls me Pete. My dad and my stepmom call me Pete. Tanya calls me Pete too. And he would say, "Just want to tell you that I love you, and, you know, how was your day?" And he would check in about my day and all that kind of stuff. And every morning, my dad would call and make sure that I was up for school. Every morning and every night. And my dad was at every school event that I ever had. He was at every PTA meeting, every teacher's deal. My dad was at everything. And, you know, I think about that today because we talk so much about like deadbeat dads or deadbeat parents or parents that don't show up or whatever. And I think about that, you know, my dad, like, I didn't even know this till I was like older, that my dad, who at the time was like, you know, chief of staff and like head of like medical boards and things like this, like he was like changing like meetings where there were like 10 people on the board just so that he could show up to like an orchestra concert, you know? And I look back at that and I think like that really just like means so much to me, you know? And, you know, both of my parents have their own issues. My mom had her drinking and whatnot. And, but you know, like I think parents do the best they can. And I think that both of my parents did the best that they can. And, you know, when my mom passed away, my dad, you know, he gave a eulogy and he said, about my mom, I asked him to talk about my mom, like when they had been together. And one of the things that he said was, you know, like we parted ways, not liking each other very much. But the one thing that we can say is that we gave life to this, you know, wonderful individual. And I'm just like so grateful that I have the parents that I have. I really do believe that the parents that we have make who we are to some degree. And I'm so grateful for that, you know. So, okay, that was probably more than you wanted to know. Favorite cozy mystery book? Definitely. Well, actually, I have my cozy mystery book right here that I'm currently reading, and that is, I've been reading it like for months, and that is A Literal Mess by J.C. Kinney, who is actually a Hoosier author. That means, Hoosier means Indiana. But I'm currently, my favorite is A Misfortune series by Jana DeLeon. Where am I at on time? Let's see. Okay. Least favorite type of ice cream? Chocolate. I'm not a big chocolate fan. Okay. Current book you're reading. Well, I'm reading this. And then I'm listening to on Audible. I mean, if you listen to my vlog, you know that I've been doing these forever. The Simone St. James book, Book of Cold Cases. I've been listening to that forever. And then I'm also reading the manga of book 2 of Fangirl. And I hope I get through those soon. Okay. Let's see. Sarah asked me, would you rather live on Star Yak Ranch with Lonely Doll and Crumble or never eat Crumble again? I mean, in all honesty, the Yak Ranch looks kind of cool, doesn't it? I mean, like, I don't know. And be able to have Crumble cookies and not have to do anything except for get your makeup and hair done on a daily. I think maybe I might have to be friends with the Lonely Doll. I mean, in all honesty, let's just be for real, right? Okay. Let's see. Did you ever travel as a kid? Yeah, I traveled a lot as a kid with my dad. Not so much with my mom. My mom was scared to drive on interstates and she was scared to fly. So I didn't travel so much with my mom. But with my dad, I traveled extensively. Like we traveled, I don't know, 3 or 4 times a year. The one cool thing about traveling with my dad was because he really couldn't take that much time off, that when we did travel, we went for like longer periods of time. So it wasn't just for like 5 days or 6 days or something like that. It was like longer periods of time, which was always really cool. My dad and my stepmom took me on some of the most amazing trips in the entire world. Did you see Trisha's video where Madonna reacts to her song? I saw the TikTok where Madonna reacts to her song. I didn't really think she reacted a whole lot to it. I just thought she was kind of like, oh, okay, whatever. Favorite slot machine? Good Lord. Oh my God. This is asked by Louise. Favorite slot machine of life? Why can't I remember what it's called? Well, it's a it's not really like the exact one. Like they have Wonder Woman and they have like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. But I love Lightning Strikes, which has the coins, if you know what I'm talking about. I love Lightning Strikes. Breakfast pizza or dessert pizza? Oh, breakfast pizza all day long. Favorite Kardashian? I don't really like get down with the Kardashians. My husband loves them a lot. But I have to say, they're okay. God, if I had to pick a favorite, is Kris Jenner considered a Kardashian? I guess Kris Jenner, I guess. Let's see. Spam call? Let's see. What was your favorite Halloween costume in years past? Oh, that was the question. I showed that in my last video that I did on my drama channel. Do you have Thanksgiving plans yet? Yes, we're going over to Caroline's, and actually her husband, Mike, is ordering the whole meal from so she was like, we gotta go in there and pick 3 vegetarian options, and so he was telling us what he'd ordered already and stuff like that. So we're real excited about that. That'll be really fun. And let's see. What has been your favorite binge watch of 2020 so far? Okay, this is going to be hard. Let's go in here and let's look at all of my TV shows that I watched. I have currently watched 61. Last one was Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. My favorite binge watch of 2022 so far. God, this is going to be so hard. Like, I want to go to something like Stranger Things just because I love it so much. But there has to have been something that I was, like, so much more into than that. That I really just could not stop watching. Well, Only Murders in the Building was so good, but, like, it came out once a week. Love, Victor. I really loved watching that. Like, that is such a great show. I wish that show had been alive. I wish that show had been out when I was in high school. That would have just saved me so much turmoil. Do you know what I'm going to have to say? Interestingly enough, my favorite 2 shows that I have binge watched in 2022 so far, Black Summer and Fear the Walking Dead, which are both zombie shows. Like, loved them both. Yeah, absolutely loved them both. Well, wasn't the watcher, that's for dang sure. All right, you guys, that's going to be it for tonight. Oh, he's laying back there. Look at him, little Boo Radley. We're going to end this video now and go down and have some dinner. So, you want some dinner, Boo Radley? We're going to go down and have some dinner. And I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.